Hello, and good evening, good morning, good day. Depends on what time you're watching this on YouTube. And people who are in the room, good evening. Well, we are back to our weekly panel discussion. Comfortably Uncomfortable with Coach Hemant, the panel discussion show. The focus of the entire panel discussion series is essentially the future of work. The past few years, we have seen some massive changes happening across the globe. Of course, the first one was triggered by COVID when remote working began and people began to work remotely very significantly. Now, that led to a slew of realizations by corporates and employees themselves that things can work in a different manner. This year has been the year of AI. Not that AI suddenly came to the market this year. AI has been around for 20, 30 years. It's just that AI access for the masses came into being with the advent of ChatGPT. And once ChatGPT took off, a host of many other tools came into the market. And now everybody is talking about AI, how AI will change the world, how AI will take away jobs, how AI will make people redundant. Just 2 days ago, I was conducting a session for the Gen Z, who is extremely worried that by the time they enter the job market after completing the studies, will there be jobs for them? Or will there be enough jobs for them? So these changes that are happening in the techno space, in the way humans think, in the way people think about jobs, about their role in organizations, about work in general, businesses are also worried. They are actively thinking about what will be the shape of the future of work. How will business be conducted? And there are so many different aspects of business. And today, as a topic of discussion on the future of work panel discussion, we have picked up innovation and creativity. There is absolutely no doubt that innovation and creativity are hallmarks of organizations which have sustained through decades after decades. As and when organizations have left the hand of innovation or creativity, that has in many ways led to their downfall. As other innovative organizations, highly creative organizations went far ahead, leaving them behind. But times are changing. AI is going to impact innovation and creativity too. People are already talking about innovation and creativity brimming when people were in office together, brainstorming, talking to each other, interacting with each other. And now with remote working, where they only meet formally over meetings, etc., is the same level of innovation and creativity possible? Is the same level of brainstorming possible? Of course, there are tools, of course, methods are being devised, but definitely innovation, creativity, the facets of these, the perspectives of these are changing. And we have a fantastic panel today to discuss just that. Let me introduce you to our panel. Let me first bring to fore Prashant. Let me spotlight you. Hi, Prashant. Welcome to our panel.
Thank you.
Prashant has over 20 years of experience, mainly in the automotive and IT services space, across consulting, sales, marketing, services, parts, and supply chain. He has helped clients conceptualize and implement strategic initiatives, with the most recent one being in the electric vehicle space, where Prashant has helped a startup build systems and processes from scratch to enable, it's an exciting field. So he has helped them to enable rolling out sales services parts operations across US and Canada. Prashant has worked across organizations such as Maruti Suzuki, Toyota, Bosch, Renault, and Tata's consultancy services. He's also an Indophile and associated with organizations such as Purna Pramati to bring in structural reforms in the field of education in view of the changing paradigms due to disruptions in generative AI that will impact the future of work. Welcome, Prashant, once again to the forum for this exciting conversation.
Thank you, Hemant. Great to be on the call here.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let me now introduce our next panelist. Radharaman Jha. Hi, Radharaman. Welcome to the panel.
Thanks for having me.
Radharaman is an accomplished senior leader with proven experience of A to Z of organizations, from strategy to implementation. For group-wide digital transformations, omni-channel supply chain, e-commerce launch, planning and fulfillment transformations that deliver profitability and sustainable growth. He has been result focused in managing and optimizing large scale operations for all categories: apparel, footwear, beauty, home, and across value as well as luxury segments. Thank you, Radharaman. We are expecting a very varied perspective on creativity and innovation based on your varied experience.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Last but not the least, we have got our final panelist, Sarendra Gala. Sarendra is a purpose-driven technical leader with 17 years of experience in the automotive industry. Sarendra holds master's degree in mechanical engineering from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He has extensive experience on simulation-based product development, product validation, and verification, developing analytical tools for problem solving, leading global projects, building testing approaches for automotive components and product reliability. He's a solution oriented leader with focus on innovation and continuous improvement philosophy. Thank you, Sarendra, for being here.
Thank you, Emma Hemant, for having me here.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, with this fantastic panel and a few guests who are listening to our conversation, thank you for joining us. For the guests who are joining us, let me just tell you, all through the discussions, you will be on mute. You will not be able to unmute yourself. Any questions or any inputs you have to the conversation going on, please feel free to add to the chat. At the end of the conversation, we'll have a Q&A round where I will pick the questions from the chat. I'll ask you to unmute. By that time, I'll change the settings so that you can unmute and you will be able to ask your questions, or I can ask the questions and the panel can respond to those. Great, fantastic. Let's move on. So, innovation, creativity, it's changing. So let's understand first of all what is changing in terms of innovation, in terms of creativity. We have three industry stalwarts from diverse industry backgrounds, all three of them working in three different geographies per se. Sarendra working in India, Radharaman Jha has worked in UAE as well as now in Germany. Prashant has spent quite some time in US and now coming back to India. So together across geographies, across cultures, and with the impact of tech and people's changing sensibilities regarding work, what is the impact or what are the changes that we are observing in creativity and innovation? Let me first pose that question to Prashant.
Thank you, Hemant. So just to give a perspective, I spent about 7 years of my life in the US and have recently come back to India. The first thing that anybody would come back to India is to set up bank accounts or set them right. So when I walked into one of the bank branches here, I was pleasantly surprised to see that none of the counters that I was used to seeing before I left for the US were present, and it resembled an open office, right? Everybody had laptops, had mobile devices, and I just walked into one person, and I got all my work done sitting at just one location, one desk. So right from resetting my passwords, getting my locker updated, and so on and so forth. So since I did not have to move about to different people, my work was very easily done, and that got me thinking as to how business has changed in terms of how interactions with customers would happen at the bank. Having said that, it also got me thinking on how systems and processes are now being designed or have to be designed, keeping this new paradigm of serving the customer, and how flexible these systems and processes need to be so that it can cater to varied requests from customers and to ensure that all the requests can be accomplished at one place. So having said that, when I also interacted with the bank employee, I realized that their job role has also changed significantly. Earlier, a cashier would be only responsible for managing the cash input inward and outward. But now, a typical bank employee not only has to manage walk-ins, understand the concerns and address their needs, but also have specific targets with respect to business development. So right from fixed deposits to gold loans. That basically means the very role that employees undergo about today has taken a dramatic shift, which also means that AI today can lend a helping hand to these employees by giving contextual information of the customer they're interacting with, specific pointers on how to improve the share of business with that particular customer. That way, the productivity with which a employee works can dramatically increase and also help with respect to achieving his or her KPIs. Thank you, Hemant.
Fantastic, fantastic. Lovely experience, I would say, and a lovely example of how things have changed as a process or the way of working. Okay, so let's move on for another perspective to Radharaman Jha.
Yeah. So, I totally agree with what Prashant said, right? I personally believe that we are living in an era where innovation and creativity is not driven by organization. If you take example, 5, 10 years ago, right? If you take example of a FMCG giant, right? Unilever or PNG used to come up with a new product, and then customer used to get excited about it. But that's not the case anymore. Now that this innovation and creativity are induced by customer, right? And if you see a couple of example, right? So YouTube have short video format, right? Instagram have short video format. This is not something that they have invented, but this is what they have understood from the customer demand, that we customer have a short span time, and therefore they came up with the kind of idea of that. Also take example of Nike by You, wherein you can customer can choose what kind of band they want. So, and also if you look at, for example, at the customer service perspective, customer is expecting 24/7 customer service, so you have to come up with AI bots, right? And also from the customer feedback perspective. So in a sense, I believe that in the current era, innovation and creativity is more customer induced rather than business induced, right? And when you really want to build this kind of innovation and creativity, it is very, very important that it is not just limited to a function of chief transformation or strategy, but it should get democratized across the function. So right, every function have to think about innovation and creativity, not just one or two function, right? And if you really want to get this out of your organization as such, it's very important that innovation and creativity goes beyond the boundary, right, beyond the geography. So you have to really bring that diversity factor into picture to really foster this kind of innovation and creativity across the businesses.
Fantastic, fantastic perspective there. Thank you very much, Radharaman. And now we come to Sarendra, your perspective on what's changing with innovation and creativity.
I think innovation, lot of innovations are happening in product processes, services, manufacturing, and other different areas. The way I think about, there are generally, broadly, I would say two types of innovation. One is about incremental or continuous one, where you have a product and then you keep on adding the features to it and making it better. Second one is disruptive innovations that changes the whole market, that changes the completely your product. It creates a new market and it changes the way of living. And one such example, I would say, in recent decade is online shopping platform. To take an example of Amazon, I am never really a fan. Couple of years back, buying things online, I used to go to market, look at the product once, and then buy it. But my experience has completely changed now. With a lot of products are available, an online platform which are not available on the shops. Second is all digital payment apps which helps you to pay quickly. And then third is smartphones. Mobile industry has changed a lot. So you see not just in bigger cities like Pune, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, but even a small town, you would find people are having smartphones, and there is good internet connection which helps them to navigate through it and buy it. And also one of the thing is like one day delivery, and if you don't like the product, you can return it. But that was not the earlier experience. So I think the way people are thinking about it's completely changed. And they also give it a Prime, Amazon Prime membership, to take an example, where you get entertainment free with the faster delivery. So being a user, I never thought that I would like to have things like that, but certainly that has been created. So it has changed the way we are living now. So many things are changing, and yeah, that's wonderful experience being a user.
Fantastic examples. I think all three of you, while you have talked from three different perspectives and angles, I think the common thread running through all of that is the customer driving innovation, the customer driving organizations to innovate and get creative in terms of what to do and what should not be done. Prashant's experience of one desk solution for any customer who walks into the bank rather than going from counter to counter. Now, that's great convenience for a customer, and there would have been a lot of creativity, innovation that would have gone in the background to enable the bank to service people like that, where one person does not have one job but is enabled by tech, by computers, by AI to play a variety of roles. Radharaman also gave a couple of good examples, and Sarendra talked about Amazon Prime. I mean, as normal users, why would we even expect entertainment from let's say, a e-commerce website which is delivering products to our home? But Amazon did that. They found the connections between how to get your customer to be loyal to you. How do you have those sticky fingers of customers to your website? And they cracked it in many ways. Amazon Prime Days, Amazon Prime as a video channel, on demand video channel, or the various things they do. Now, Prime Music is there, and so many other things. So they have also cracked the code, but there would have been a lot of creativity involved and, of course, innovation to make it happen. So while we see the customer as the prime driver of innovation and creativity for the organization, but we see that simple innovations or simple creativity doesn't work. It takes a very high level of innovation and creativity to actually hold on to your customers, to delight your customers and make things happen. Now, this changing facet of the complexity and the level of creativity and innovation, what kind of challenges are these creating for organizations? Let's focus a bit on the troubles, on the problems that organizations are now facing, the challenges that they are facing to catch up and to keep up with this growing demand of the customer side of creativity and innovation. So let's begin with you, Prashant.
Sure, thank you, Aman. So let's start with a basic concept of change, right? Change is always painful, right? Whether it's a small change, incremental change, major change, change is always painful. Having said that, but without change, there's no progress, right? So there is bound to be some resistance, because behind every resistance, there's a fear that change will affect the way you live and work. For an example, when India started computerization early in the early 1980s, there were widespread demonstrations and strikes, which had to be put down with an iron hand. So the strikers were worried that computers will take away their jobs and they will be left without a home or a hearth. But that did not happen, right? Computerization created new jobs, new avenues for growth. But that is STEM thinking in from hindsight. Given the AI revolution, given the way conversational AI is taking over the world, at least with respect to how content is generated and managed today, there is bound to be resistance. And within an organization as well, employees will resist certain changes. Uh, and in addition to that, organizations will also find it very difficult to get skilled resources. When I say skilled resources, we're not talking about developers or coders. We're also talking about people who are in the front line, who are able to use AI to their advantage. Having said that, one major issue that we find not just in India but the world across is that the education system is not really geared up towards the paradigm shifts that we are seeing today. We are still looking at education as more of information gathering, information analysis, but not really leveraging applications and technology to do our job in a much more productive and much more efficient manner. So I think organizations will face resource crunch going forward, and to a great degree, a lot of resistance, not just from its own internal ecosystem stakeholders, but also its partner ecosystem stakeholders.
Thank you, Prashant. Very pertinent challenges pointed out, and organizations will have to figure out ways to meet those challenges. I guess as future leaders, individuals will be responsible for figuring how to go about that. Well, with that, I hand over the virtual mic to Radharaman. Your perspective.
Yeah, well, Hemant, I think the issue lies at top, right? If you look at the vision and mission statement of most of the Fortune 500 company, or for that matter, any company, right? How many of them you really find innovation and creativity as a part of the vision and mission? Maybe
True.
seldom, right? The reason is most of I mean, most of us as a human being are tied up in the top line and bottom line across the organization, and the entire organization is driven toward that top line bottom line, right? We don't really realize that there will be a startup tomorrow which might disrupt a $5 billion company overnight because of their innovation and creativity, right? So the real issue lies in the fact that we have to have a vision, goal, outcome strategy at the top in terms of what we as an organization is trying to do. I'm not saying don't focus on top and bottom line, but have a portion of your business strategy towards innovation and creativity, right? That's where the entire issue lies. The second point, this we have to shift from the traditional mindset of process improvement, process reengineering, and all those kaizen and Toyota principle, right? I think that's the 50-year-old strategy, right? We have to start thinking about a disruptive move, right? When I say disruptive move, right, when you think about process reengineering, you say, okay, you are at state A, you want to go to B, then C and D. But now you have got the kind of tool in place where from A you can directly travel to B, or to D, E, or maybe some other part. And that kind of culture mindset is very, very important for organization to cultivate as a part of that, right? The third point, which I believe is very, very essential, is there used to be a time where people used to think in organization that you have to continuously get a technical skill and learn only until you are a manager, senior manager, GM. And after that, it's more about stakeholder management and you have to go to CXO level. I don't think that's what's true in the current era, right? Now, this continuous learning is not just for the bottom of the pyramid. It is equally important for the top of the pyramid. In fact, it is more painful for the top of the pyramid because you are not used to of the technology which current or current customer and your competitor are using it. And yes, people are thinking about disruption and kind of fear about it might take away your job and all that part. But I don't think that's a real issue, right? Normal human being, as per scientific research, we use to do 3% of our brain. Apparently, Albert Einstein have used only 5% of his brain. So, which means since we are currently slogging for the business process in a way that we are not able to think beyond the boundaries of what we could do when this innovation creativity would start cultivating. So maybe the world will be a different place after 10 years, right? Organization businesses would have maybe 10x potential of what they are thinking now. So I think these are the key real issue which we have in the organization to be able to really get to that level.
Fantastic, fantastic. Rightly said. I would agree on the points where you said that organizations, uh, as a whole, from top to bottom, will have to become learning organizations. Each individual will also be responsible for their own learning, besides being driven by the organization. So, fantastic point. Sarendra, over to you now.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, a lot of innovation, technical innovations are driven through, of course, customer, end user, and there are certain policy-driven norms as well. One of the example, being an automobile guy, I would like to take up that the emission norms are being more stringent due to the global warming. And we have this diesel and petrol engine history, IC engine history, 100-year old. And now you see a lot of new technologies, electrification, fuel cell, hydrogen engine coming into the picture. Now, so many things that organization has to plan. First of all, which area to enter, because certainly after 2030, you would see the quite decrease in this diesel and petrol engines, and people will go around these three areas. So one challenge is certainly where to put more effort in which technology. Then product is completely new. That's a big challenge. So your design, product design, analysis, validation, verification, everything will change. Even the capability in the organization, that has to change. That becomes an challenge. Like how do you train more and more people to adopt these changes, right? And if you think on a broader level, the whole supply chain industry would change, the whole manufacturing would change. And to take an example, you have so many petrol pumps where you get a petrol, diesel, and some of them are CNG. But if you move to these technologies, then hydrogen being a fuel has a lot of safety concern. So as the number of vehicles from these technologies are going to increase and diesel and petrol going to down, you would need the similar changes into the fueling stations. So it's like a whole worldwide changes, right? Driving the whole world. And then service in the I would say service industries, basically servicing of a vehicle, that would again change. So you would see the not just the changes for organization, but you would see the changes for whole country and in turns the world.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's a very interesting perspective of the innovation, the way it manifests in real life. Because you want to bring an innovation, and there needs to be infrastructure, there needs to be changes made to the world the way we know it today for that innovation to go ahead. Uh, Electric vehicles have been around for so many years now. It's been, I think, over 2 decades that we have been talking about it, but they are still not widespread. It's now that they are beginning to pick up because of the refueling by electric charging. Now, where do you charge it once it's gone out of the home? So, yes, the mileage has improved, charging stations are coming up, and so on and so forth. Uh, Changes in the overall infrastructure of at a country or a city level, where you would need to refit your petrol pumps, gas stations to adapt to the new ratios of the cars you've got on the road. And similarly, like, while you were talking about it, I was thinking, what if there was a new technology that came to the tire? I mean, that we have been having rubber tires for so long. If that tech was to change, countries would have to begin to rethink the way they design roads and they build roads, and so on and so forth. One small change. And of course, we are already talking about flying cars. Some countries have already tested, including Dubai. We had a test of a flying car here as a taxi, as a cab, 2, 3 years ago, and they are already thinking about launching it in a slightly bigger way in the coming years. So the future is in that way right here, right now. And the challenges will be, are we ready for that? Uh, while organizations push for innovation and creativity, are cities, our countries, our governments ready for it? Are people ready for it? Like the AI revolution has taken the world by the storm, as I was talking about it. But are people ready for that, like amazing or stupendous growth or changes that have been brought by AI? So, have we have talked about what changes are happening? We have talked about what challenges are being posed. As future leaders, we can't just stop at challenges. We need to come up with solutions also. So let's talk about what the organizations will have to do, what the leaders of the future need to be thinking about, and what kind of solutions do they need to bring to the table to cope up with these changing perspectives of innovation and creativity. We'll go in the same order. We'll begin with you, Prashant.
Sure. So, Hemant, you might have heard of the famous saying, it takes a diamond to cut a diamond, right? So,
Yes.
if you need to find solutions for the AI skill gap, you will need to use AI. For example, GitHub has something called GitHub Copilot, which basically works along with the developer so that developer can create code faster and better. In the same way, AI will be used by organizations, at least in the short term, to help employees come to speed with what is required from a mindset and skill sets perspective to leverage AI for the day to day activities. From a long term perspective, of course, we need a lot of structural changes. And very frankly, the paradigm shift is so fast and so quick. It will take a couple of years for the formal education system to catch up with the demands of an AI driven economy. Having said that, the next challenge which we outlined was on the change acceptance mindset. Now, we will see a lot of organizations who will be able to adapt, leverage, and build on the opportunity provided by innovations and disruptions like AI. There will be companies and organizations which will not be able to do so. So, we will see a lot of companies go down under. There is going to be a lot of churn, a lot of pain. But at the end of the day, we are going to see an economy that is much more um, advanced and much more productive than what we have today.
Super, super. So there you go. The seed of the solutions are in place, and they need to be nurtured by the various leaders of tomorrow. Radharaman, what is your perspective on this?
Yeah, well, I would not 100% agree that seeds are already there and they have to be nurtured. I think in many cases we have to really put seeds as well, right?
Sure.
And I think as an organization, we should be ready to take tough call, tough decisions to really put these seeds, right? Imagine an organization which have been working in a one traditional approach from last 50 years and they had some consistent growth and they have some team. Do you think they will even think about doing something different? I mean, if you go to a board meeting, you will be outright, removed and not talk about that. So we have to first change the mindset, right, from top to bottom. So I think that's the first thing that as a leader we have to really think about, right? The second part is we have to cultivate an innovation culture in the organization, and that should not come from transformation office or strategy office. That's the old approach. I think it has to come from each of the function. Each of the functions should be empowered enough to start. See, we don't have to create another chat gpt. We want to use those functionality in a way that our work become more efficient. So
Yes.
it is more about adaptability, and we have to foster that culture that every function have to come up with three or four different use cases where you can use innovation, right? We don't have to build the entire car from scratch, but see how you can use that car as well. The second and the most important part which we should understand is any acceptance or adaptability or innovation comes with the risk of failure. That failure could be the time failure because yeah, right, you will lose time, and b monetary failure as well. So as an organization, leaders should be equipped to really understand this aspect and somehow put that as a part of their entire innovation strategy, that yes, this could be the potential failure by this time, by this money, but ultimate goal is this and this, right? The third and the most important part is we have to have a reward and recognition mechanism around this innovation and creativity, right? Currently, we have reward and recognition around multiple factors, right? How you have performed, what you have done, cost saving, XYZ.
Yes.
But we have to have this kind of reward and recognition in the organization so that even that comes as a part of competition to how it is being there as a part of the entire culture as well. Third and the most important part is also about having a long-term vision and convince the organization about long-term vision, right? Because innovation and creativity is not something that would really be done in 1 month, 1 year, right? It is a kind of continuous process. So it's important to understand that long-term vision of this innovation and creativity, their impact on the organization as such, and also on the entire ecosystem, right? And it's very, very important that big organizations start taking serious consideration of the startup ecosystem who are doing such a tremendous amount of work in this innovation and creativity, because that's how you have to cross pollinate between the industry, and then only you will be able to find the right mixture for your organization to come up with that type.
Super. Fantastic. Fantastic. Rightly said, Adaraman, the distributed responsibility will be there across the organization and different facets will be there. So all those will need to be highlighted. They will need to be brought to fore and facilitated. Great points. Sarendra, over to you.
So I would start with little bit on leadership part. I would first take the VUCA leadership, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world today we are in. But at the same time, the world has been full of opportunities, full of growth, uh, full of energy that you see currently in the people to deal with it. And it starts with the leader in an organization. How do you deal with those uncertainties? And how do you make sure that not just your team or not just the cross-functional team, but the whole organization adopts it and adopt it quickly? Because there are a lot of time factor coming in these days, right? If you delay, then certainly you are behind it. Second thing I would talk about a bit servant leadership. So today's team, when you talk about innovation, certainly you would succeed some of the time, you would see the failure some of the time. So team really needs their leader, not just to be a coach, not just to be a mentor, but partnering those successes and failures. And that's the way you build a lot of confidence in the team, and being a core organization, you are ready to face any challenges put into you. And if you have to talk about innovation, I think the foremost important is a diverse workforce. It not just about gender diversity or any other geographical diversity, but you need people with a different experience, and they could combine and work towards one goal, one vision, and that's where the success of company lies. Right. Third point, I would say you need a lot of strategic thinking around your people, product, and processes. So these three are the real pillars of an organization. It is sometimes very difficult to have a strategic thinking about all three of them, but if you plan around the people, because they are the, I would say, primary driver and the product, then certainly these two things can take care of the third thing, which are the processes in the company. And of course, I think COVID has taught us a lot many things, that you could work from anywhere in the world, but it still can become an innovative, and a lot of innovations are happening. So yeah, these are the main drivers that would help any organization to thrive in this uncertain world.
Thank you, Sarendra. Thank you. The role of leadership, definitely, rightly pointed out, they do lead the charge. Often the leadership uh, is de facto responsible for creating that company culture. They drive company culture, while culture is formed in those small teams and then collectively there is a company culture. But leadership drives, they give direction, they set priorities. Radharaman talked about you've got so many parameters and KPIs and KRAs. Is innovation and creativity one of them? Are you in some ways forcing creativity and innovation if it's not happening naturally, and force it to the level where it begins to happen naturally, where it becomes second nature, where your average employee is pretty much being very, very innovative and creative in everything he or she is doing? If you can reach that point, you won't need to enforce it any longer. Fantastic conversations today. I would say we have talked about innovation and creativity, the way the innovation and creativity paradigm is shifting, and the new perspectives that are coming in with tech, with changing preferences of people and the way they look at work. We've talked about the challenges which organizations face with all these changes happening, and of course, what the organizations need to do, what the leaders of the future need to do to match, to cope up with these changing perspectives of leadership and of creativity and innovation. Well, I would like to ask all three of you for your closing comments, but let me just spotlight all of you for now. Let's begin with spotlighting everybody. Let me get everybody on stage. Well, fantastic. All four of us on this screen now, and I would like your one or two statements, like a parting remark or a closing remark on this entire debate. What do you think is future holding for us? Let's begin in the same order. Prashant, you go first.
Yeah. So AI and disruptions are definitely going to make us very uncomfortable because it changes the way we look at things and the way we work with things. Having said that, once you become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Then a lot of possibilities open up. And that is the possibility that leads us to fulfilling our potential as human beings. These are my 2 cents.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, Radharaman, over to you.
Yeah, I think organizations should have disruptive mindset for innovation or creativity, or be ready to get disrupted. One way or other, it might come as a strong message, but what I see in the organization, and there are ample amount of example where organization refused, and in some cases being egoistic to change or have accept the innovation and creativity, and they were disrupted, right? So it's very important that you keep that mind, and have that message loud and clear across the hierarchy. Second thing I would say, don't think about organization being a hub for creativity or innovation. Always keep customer at the center of innovation and creativity, and start building backward integration towards different functions and everything. You will definitely find use cases where you can do innovation and creativity which will really resonate with what customer is expecting, right? And I think if you do that, I truly believe that whatever innovation creativity we have seen in last 50 years, we might see maybe 2x or 4x in next 5 years or next 10 years, right? Look at the how innovation have happened, right? Within 3 years of COVID, we have seen 10x innovation of what we have seen in the e-commerce industry in last 10 years.
Absolutely.
So we don't need another COVID wave, but as an organization, the way we are evolving as a human being, as a technology, as an organization, be ready to see 10x, 100x of innovation in the organization, and keep that in mind while drafting the entire strategy.
Fantastic, fantastic. Very pertinent points, very fantastic closing argument. Sarendra, over to you.
Yeah, for me, I would say innovation is necessity of today's world to create greener, better, and safer tomorrow's future. That's where we should all head for.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, panelists. It was great to have you. We have the audience, and the audience, if you have any questions, good time to put our panelists at the center of them. Samir, Vinod, any questions you have got?
Hey, hi. No questions from my side. I think it was quite a good session, quite informative from all the three panelists. And you also being the fourth panelist, I have very good insights.
Thank you, Vinod. Thank you. Samir, any questions? Or Lohit has also joined us while we were discussing. Well, great. Thank you, everybody. It was I would say, a fantastic conversation that we had today, talking about innovation, talking about creativity, talking about the perspectives that are changing, and talking about the world the way it is changing. The leaders of the future, the ones who are the leaders in the making today, need to be prepared for an absolutely different world in the near term. It's a misnomer to talk about long term now. What is long term? Long term used to be 20 years, 10 years. Now long term is practically reduced to 5 years and 2 years. Short term is a few weeks, few months. The world is changing month on month. So the leaders of tomorrow, the ones who are in making today, need to be agile, need to be flexible, need to be constantly learning new things, need to keep their eyes on the challenges that are coming up and have their own thoughts and solutions for overcoming those challenges. Thank you very much to all the members who have joined today. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, audience, and all those who are watching on YouTube, even the recorded versions. Thank you to you guys. Any questions you have got, any feedback you have got, feel free to let us know.